Welcome to the official first episode of Rewind It. We're still kind of defining and figuring out what we want to do. I want it to be like a variety show. The algorithm does not reward variety, they want the same thing every single time. I am not one to be kept in a box. So, this is most likely going to be a variety show, but it's going to specifically focus on photography, videography, digital content creation and marketing, and anything in between small businesses, entrepreneurials, interviewing seniors, getting their ideas of what the world is like in their perspective. Whew, that's hot. Hot. Burnt my mouth. Anyways, the goal is eventually I'm going to get to a format where you know kind of what to expect. Until then, you're going to get me going, boom, 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 firing off, throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what sticks. I do want to give one heads up. You're going to see me slouching a lot, like back here, and I'll bring the microphone close, but I can't sit forward long. So I had an esophagus. I also had cancer. So they took out that esophagus, moved my stomach to my chest, and now sitting forward, I get nauseous. So I'm going to be moving around a lot and sitting back. I hate laying back, especially because I'm in like this egg-shaped chair. So I like just roll. Oh, forgot to pull the mic. I like slide down as I talk. So we're going to move back and forth, but we're going to figure it out. We're excited. By we, I mean me. I never know why we say we when there's just one person. Today, I really want to talk about something that's in the photography realm. And you don't have to be a photographer to appreciate it, because I think there's more of a life lesson / challenge in this thought process as well. So stick around. I'm sure you're going to learn something. If anything, you're going to learn that your homeboy's crazy. Oh, it's still hot. I keep forgetting. Whew. Okay. Anyways, so a little backstory, since this is episode 1 and we're getting to know each other. I feel like we're on our first date. I feel like we're on a first date and we're getting to know each other. Here, you get to know about me. My name is Luke, obviously. I've always liked taking pictures, photos, photography. I remember having several film cameras back in the day because that's all we had. Digital cameras weren't a thing back then. And I loved taking pictures, developing, kind of telling the story in the photos. But I never thought about pursuing it professionally. Then, fast forward to 2009, I moved to California. I befriend a bunch of friends that are photographers. And I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'd like to do that too someday. Well, I didn't do it in California. I moved back to Pennsylvania and then immediately was like, oh, California had so many pretty places to photograph and stuff. Maybe I should do it here. But I never did. There's a big truck driving by. 2015, I got asked to film a wedding because they knew I made YouTube videos. And I was like, yeah, sure. Filmed the wedding. Fell in love with the entire process. I was intoxicated. The best part is driving home from the wedding, I felt great. I'm blasting my Disney music. I'm singing along. Stop at Sheetz. I get some chicken fingers and ginger ale, and I'm living my best life. And I'm like, I got paid to do this? Yes. So I did it on the side for a while. Now, keep in mind, in our area, a lot of them are still like, why do we need video, let alone to pay for video? And I was like, uh-oh. So I quickly jumped onto the photography side. I say I learned from the streets, air quote, really I mean YouTube. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos because I wanted to learn, and I love baptism by fire. So I would start doing sessions and realize, oh, I messed this up and this up and this up. How can I fix that in Photoshop? And then I would learn and watch videos on YouTube, mostly of like condescending 8-year-olds where they're like, okay, guys, I'm only going to explain this one more time. And I'm like, ouch. But anyways, I was doing my own thing, taking pictures, and never really was a part of the photography community because in our area, the photography community is very old school, if that makes sense. Like, they're professionally trained. It's great. And this isn't shots fired. This is just from my perspective. It's very boring. When I was working on the dairy farm, when we would bring the cows in to milk, we would bring them into a large, I can't even remember the term, just area, gathering of cows. And one by one, they would single file come into the milking room, stand behind each other. We'd milk them and get on. I'm getting notifications like crazy. Okay. So, anyways, we'd bring the cows in one by one. They wouldn't get milked one at a time, but there'd be like, I think 6 on each side. And they would get milked, move on, do it again. Milked, move on, do it again. You get the picture. And I feel a lot of photographers have lost that creative passion that they once had. Because, I mean, no judgment to them. They're just trying to make money. They're trying to make bank. Me, I'm a little different. I'm built different, son, to a fault. Because when they say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, could also go, do what you love and you'll never charge people for you to work for them a day in your life. If you do what you love, you never get a day off. If you do what you love, you're not going to charge people enough. And that's the issue. I started doing photos, and then when people would be like, hey, this was great. Oh, yeah. How much do I owe you? And I'd panic because my brain doesn't work in numbers. I don't think like that. And I just feel slimy saying, oh, here's the price. So I'd go, you know what? Just take all the pictures for free. You guys were fantastic. I just love doing this because I would get a high from taking these pictures and being creative and really being the hype man. And I think that's more of what I am. I'm not a professional photographer. I'm a professional hype man because in every situation, you need to hype someone up or keep them hyped, keep it going, keep that excitement going. So anyways, I start realizing it's about experience. Oh my gosh, I never get this many notifications. Okay, there you go. So I start realizing, and this is a long way to get to the pot. That's an analogy I just made up. It makes no sense. I started realizing it's more about the experience of the pictures than anything else. Because for photographers out there or kids that have a dad, anytime you go to get family photos, 9 times out of 10, the dad doesn't want to be there. And he's just here to make his wife happy. But he looks held hostage inside and he's miserable. And with kids and toddlers, you've seen so many where they just don't want to listen. They don't want their picture taken. So the parents flip out and everyone's stressed. And the photographer's like, well, I'm getting paid either way. I don't care. Not me. I care. And that's why I learned quickly to do face swaps in Photoshop, because as long as I could get one picture of the kid smiling or here's a little tip, right before they cry and lose their crap, it looks like they're smiling. So no one will know but you and the family that that's a attempt to cry as opposed to a smile. And I would take that and warp it and fit it to each of the faces. So that way, when the parents get the pictures, they go, how did you even get that? It was pure chaos. And then they feel like something magical happened. And then it flips something in their brain and they go, okay, that wasn't as bad an experience as I thought. And then they start looking forward to it. And what happens is when you look forward to photo sessions as a client, kids don't freak out as much because they don't feel the stress of it. You know what I mean? So that's why and also it helps that I have the mentality of a 2-year-old. So anytime now I see kids that used to have tantrums and complain during my shoots, now they come up and give me knuckles, fireworks, everything like that. But it comes down to the experience. And this is where we're going to have real talk now, folks, okay? I don't think creating experience is talked about enough in the photography industry. I might be wrong because I'm new to the photography industry. And by that, I mean, I don't know. I was just doing my thing for all these years. I never really partook in the photography community, if that makes sense. I didn't want to. I love people. I love talking to people, and I love talking about my work, but I don't like a lot of the boring photographers, if that makes sense. Not that I don't like them. I don't like their cockiness. They're full of themselves, if that makes sense. Because technically, if you think about it, anyone can be a photographer. And when you see a lot of the viral photos online, it's not from a professional photographer. It's from a photographer who has a specific vibe, has a specific editing style. Which gets me into pricing. Can we talk about photography pricing for a second? Photographers say charge $1 billion. Clients say, ooh, that's pricey. I don't know. Where do you fall? Where do you go in between? I had a client recently not book me because they said they could get senior pictures from someone locally. Would they get like 400 pictures for $200? And I said, if you could get that deal, go for it. If you like their editing style, if you like what they do, that's fine. Great. Good on you. I handle it differently. I hate how it sounds. I haven't worked on a way to where I like it, but basically I say I treat each and every photo as a work of art. I don't photographers that are doing 400 pictures for $200, they're just applying a preset. Let's be honest. They're taking your photos and they might be good at taking the picture, but once they put it on their computer, they're just copy and pasting a preset to all of them and then they're sending it to you. So it's real easy for them to do. I don't do that. I don't like that. I don't like that to a fault, actually, because in the professional realm, they say you need to have a style so that way people know what they're going to get from you. And on my end, I go, but what if my style doesn't fit the person I'm taking pictures of? I just did a senior session in Pittsburgh last week, and as I was going through the pictures and editing them, the lighting changed while I was in the one spot. But I changed, I changed the posing, I changed everything. So as I'm editing it, I feel like the story and the vibe that I'm trying to create through these images changes as it goes. So professional photographers are going to say, oh, there's no synchronization between these. Like, how is your customer even remotely happy with this? And I don't know. I think from the outside, no one's going to notice that I spent way more time on each individual picture. And granted, that doesn't help me cost effective wise. Like, the faster you can get them out and still pay it. If you could get paid and get them out fast, you can make more money. But I don't like that. That's the thing, is like, I love the art form of it. I love the creativity of it. I hate the business side of photography. But this brings me to the main point, which I've just been rambling on, is it okay to slightly change and alter your edits depending on the person and the client? My guess is in the photography world, if you're a photographer, you're probably going to tell me no. And part of me feels like that too, because I have this panic of like, what if someone hires me and then I edit it in a style that they're like, ew. And I go, oh, I'm going to feel so bad. But what it comes down to is I want them to know me because I'm their hype man. I give them a great experience. This makes me think back. Let's rewind. This is the thought process I was going to before. I worked at Bob Evans, one of my first jobs. Let's see. I worked on the farm, and then I worked at a country club. Going from a dairy farm to a country club is like night and day. But then I went from there to Panera Bread, and went from Panera Bread to Bob Evans down on the farm. And while at Bob Evans, the biggest tips I got at Bob Evans were on the orders that I messed up the most. Like, I messed up one order. It was a party of 11 people, and I messed it up so bad. I thought for sure the manager was going to fire me at the end of the night. I don't know how I messed it up. I honestly, but back then it was like, hey, if they order a hamburger, draw a sheep with a halo above it. And if they want cheese on it, put a knife into the sheep. Then we'll know. It was just so random, and I kept messing it up, and I messed up this 11 top. And it wasn't going to go well. But after they left, they all thanked me. They were super nice, and I'm like, I'm going to get fired. And as I'm cleaning off the table, I grabbed the tip, and I don't even remember how much, but here's why. I grabbed the tip, and there was a lot of cash on the table for my tip. And I was shocked. Like, did they leave just piles of money here? And as I'm cleaning up, my manager comes over and goes, Luke, you messed up. This is the worst mess up I've ever seen on an order. And I was like, I know. And he goes, are those your tips from this table? And I go, yeah. And he goes, they were happy, and I said, I guess so. Apparently, they said they were good to go. They look forward to next time. Blah blah blah. Yeah, and he's like, Luke, you messed up really bad, but you still won them over. And I think that's something I've always unintentionally held on to. Not intentionally, but like I just want to hype people up and love on them and make them happy. So even if I mess up, because I'm a flawed human being, I'm gonna mess things up. But I think the experience is what makes people judge the final product. So even though I had messed up the entire order and we were redoing things and stuff like that, their experience was good because I was hyping them up the whole time. I wasn't doing it selfishly, but now it might be a good strategy to do. But I think as I was editing and taking photos when I first started, they weren't good pictures. They were not at all good. But I would send them and like want to throw up because I knew they were going to hate the pictures. And they go, oh my gosh, I love it. I remember I had moms crying because they loved the pictures so much. Because in the reality, it's not the photo. It's the experience. It's the moment in time that you're freezing. And even though it was pure chaos at the shoot, I learned some ways to kind of fix some of my errors, what I was falling short in. But also, I was loving on them during the shoot, so they left with a good taste in their mouth, with a good experience. I think this is me kind of stating that I want my style to be, oh, he's a great hype man. I'm okay with that because each person is different. And I want my edits to reflect them, and I want their pictures to feel unique and their own and not just like a copy and paste. And there's nothing wrong with copy and paste. Now, granted, there's some people that charge a lot of money just to copy and paste when you could buy the preset they bought for like $75. And part of me wants to do a challenge where you send me a picture that you really like, and whether it's clearly a preset or not, and I'm pretty sure I could replicate it. There was a show called Heroes. Do you remember back in the day? Save the cheerleader, save the world. And there was a guy, oh boy, I forgot his name, Siler. And he used to absorb it's like Absorbing Man from the comics, nerd alert. But he would actually like kill the hero and take their powers. And he would just like pull this from here. And he'd get all these powers. And I feel like I can do that with editing. Not like actual posing and taking pictures. That comes with time. But I think editing, I can really break down what is in someone's edit. And my little game I like to play is like, oh, I saw this one photographer. I will not mention their name. And they charge like $10,000 to $15,000 for their weddings. And this isn't throwing stones. This is just saying like they're not good pictures. They're trendy. That's what they are. And that's not me talking like a snob. That's just, I'm sure people have said that about my photos. But they're really playing the trend card. So that way, when people find them, they want them because it's trendy right now. You know what was trendy back in the 80s? Perms. What millions of wedding pictures have perms in them, or the permed mullet, dare I say. And looking back, you're like, wow, that's dated. And I really think that's what's going to happen with the trendy photos. When you have the presets on them, you're going to look back and be like, why is everything yellow tinted? Why is everything blurry? Because that's a trend too. And I love it all. I get obsessed with it. I'll watch the TikToks for days, and I'll do it for some. But it has to tell the story. Like blurry kids running around their parents who are standing still. Oh, chef's kiss. Like, I love that. That captures the pure chaos and adorableness of children while being a parent. I call that parenthood, right? So again, it comes down to telling the story though. And I want to tell the story of every individual session that I'm doing. So I guess it comes down to, what is the big question? What question is it okay to not have a style, but to bank on the experience? I think the unpopular opinion that I have is yes. I think people don't know that they're looking for the experience. I mean, let's be honest. Look, there's a lot of like media day right now. So it's not picture day for sports, it's media day where they're doing some really cool stuff. There's smoke, some have fire, some have trapeze artists coming down. No, there's no trapeze artists yet. Anyways, it's the experience of media day. And that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. Senior photos and sports, because I feel like these student athletes need to feel like the rock stars that they are. And that sounds super cheesy when I say it out loud, but I 100% mean it. Like, again, this falls into me being your hype man. Like, all the kids that I take pictures of, all the adults I take pictures of, families, athletes, all the athletes that I take pictures of, I already know that they're cooler than me. So I want to show off how cool they really are. So I'm vicariously living through them. And that's why I'll do the edits. And each edit's going to be a little different. And yes, there's the gamble of they might not like it, but also there's the gamble of this is one of a kind. This is theirs. It gives ownership to their own media and photos and videos. Nothing wrong with having a style. I think finding your style, finding your niche, finding your niche. I don't know what it's called. I had a friend we called Niche. His last name was Niche in high school, so I don't know how to say the other word now. But anyways, I think finding your style is huge. Finding who you are as a creator is huge. And for me, I found that in the experience end of content creation. So it's not just photos, it's also videos, it's also posts, it's things like that. And as I'm also into digital marketing and like digital content creation for small businesses and local photographers and things like that. And what it comes down to is like, they don't want the same thing as other companies. They want something that's catered specifically to them. And that's what's going to help them stand out, is because it's them. So to my photographer friends that are watching this, if you've made it this far into the first episode of Luke Rambling, don't worry, we're going to have people on here to co-host and interview and things like that too. But do you feel you have found your style, and are you content? If yes, do you feel dead inside as a creator? That sounds like I'm leading the witness. It's not. I think my issue is to create, I can't keep making the same thing. I have to continually customize it. And part of it is, I was a theater major, really can't do anything with that as a major, but I was involved in improv a lot. And what you do is you get a skeletal outline and then you improvise. And that's exactly what I'm doing with photos and videos and marketing and digital content creation. Maybe some of you are just doing photos to get a paycheck, but where is your creativity at? Like, what's your hobby? I'm still stuck in editing, and photos and videos are still my hobby. And not stuck. I mean, like, it's still my hobby, so I would do this for free, and that's why I have a hard time charging for it, if that makes sense. So yeah, photographers, if you have a style and you're completely content with that because you have your whole workflow down, it makes life a lot easier. I totally understand that. But how do you fulfill your creative needs as a creative person? Because I honestly don't think you can be in the photography industry if you're not creative, because you would be dead inside very quickly. And for those that aren't in photography, for those that just like their picture taken, whether it's as families or someone that just wants their kids' pictures, or you want your athletes, or you're a senior and you want senior pictures, what are your thoughts on trendy photos versus professional photos and finding that balance in between? Do you care? I think that's the big question. Do you care if you're paying someone just to put a preset on to your pictures? There's no wrong answer. It's just how we each feel. But I'd be curious to hear. How do you feel about if you have a photographer like me who every session is slightly different? Like, you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but do you feel like you know you're going to like what you get because you know me as a person? Or if you have another photographer that's like that, like, you know what you're going to get from them, even though it's not a specific style, it's like a vibe, if that makes sense. For my entrepreneurs out there, for my small business peeps, I have a ton of business ideas. I'm just not good at business. And I think occasionally on this podcast, I'm going to share my business idea. And you guys could tell me if it's crazy or not. You could try to steal it if you want. I don't care, honestly. And people might be doing this now. I don't know. I wanted to do this years ago, but now I think it's officially at a place where we can do it. And that's to do full weddings, video and photo, on an iPhone. Sounds crazy, right? Yeah, I know. But I've been around long enough now to see certain photos and videos that are not good. You get what you pay for, right? But what I like about doing the iPhone thing is it's an affordable way that still gets you a good final product to tell your story. I just don't know if it's something that you can actually push or market. Now, granted, the clientele you're going to push that to are going to be the ones that are looking for a deal or cheap because that's what they want. So it kind of takes away from the artistic integrity of a video with all your fancy equipment and things like that. What is above my head? Oh, it's tracking my face. Okay. But I always thought it'd be cool. It's an affordable way to get your wedding day filmed or photographed. And with the iPhone 15 stabilization, I was like, oh, this can be done now. You don't need a stabilizer. You don't need fancy equipment. And then I just got to decide, do I want that to be my thing to go viral with? I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts on that, though, with technology. I know the traditionalists would be like, oh, throwing up all over the table. And I think what it comes down to for me and why I'm doing this podcast is I'm not much of a rebellious person. I'm a goody two shoes. I generally follow the rules. But when it comes to like photography and creating things, I don't need those rules. I mean, I like them as a structural outline, but then you improvise. And I think that's the sweet spot that I like. Not that I feel rebellious. It's that it's doing something fresh. And if you're just following the rules, it's not fresh. Even if you're doing something new that's never been done before, if you keep doing that over and over again, yeah, that's your shtick. You can become a talking head on that piece over and over and over and over and over again. But for me, that's the issue, is over and over and over again. I don't want to be trapped in that. I don't want to create this box that I can't get out of. And yeah, that's just creativity, right? It's like when Drake won an award and he says he understands. He said something in the nature of he understood that in his line of business, winnings and losings aren't based off of like actual points or percentages. It's based completely off of people's opinions. And I think that's what we forget in photography. Someone's not going to like my hippity-dippity fun experience type. Just like I don't like the boring mothball photos. Hope you guys got a little nugget of knowledge from this, or even just a new way to think things through. I like to I think of the brain, what do they say? The elasticity of the brains. Creating new pathways in your brains helps you kind of grow. And I think that's in the creativity realm too. Well, that's all we got for this episode. This is Rewind It. We'll talk to you later.